The silver ships came down from the sky like falling stars. They moved slowly and carefully, as if they did not want to scare anyone. People all over Earth stopped what they were doing to look up at the strange vessels. Children pointed at them with wide eyes. Adults pulled out their phones to take pictures. Lisa Martinez stood on the roof of the United Nations building in New York. She wore her best blue suit and tried to look calm, but her heart was beating fast. This was the moment humans had dreamed, about 400 years. They were finally meeting beings from another world. The largest ship landed in Central Park. It was bigger than a football field and made no sound as it touched the ground. The metal was smooth and shiny, like a mirror. Strange symbols glowed along its sides in soft blue light. Dr. Alex Turner stood next to Lisa. He was a scientist who had studied space and stars his whole life. His hands shook a little as he held his tablet computer. He had spent years thinking about this day, but now that it was here, he felt very small. A door opened in the side of the alien ship. No ramp came down. Instead, 3 tall figures floated out and drifted toward the ground like leaves falling from a tree. They were thin and graceful, with long arms and legs. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were large and dark. They wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid silver. The one in front was taller than the others. It stepped forward and spoke in perfect English, though its voice sounded like music played through water. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective. We come in peace to meet the people of Earth. Lisa took a deep breath and walked forward. She had practiced this moment many times, but her voice still shook when she spoke. Welcome to Earth. I am Lisa Martinez, and I speak for the United Nations. We are happy to meet you. Veltar made a gesture that might have been a bow. We have watched your world from far away. We see that you are a gentle people who love peace. We would like to be friends. Dr. Turner stepped up beside Lisa. We have so many questions. How did you travel here? How long have you been watching us? All in good time, Veltar said, with what looked like a smile. First, we would like to see how your people live. We want to understand your ways. Over the next few days, the aliens visited cities around the world. They went to schools and hospitals. They watched children play in parks. They saw families eating dinner together. They visited art museums and listened to music concerts. Captain Jake Morrison followed them everywhere. He was in charge of keeping the aliens safe, but he also watched them carefully. Something about them made him feel uneasy, though he could not say what it was. The aliens seemed amazed by human kindness. They watched a woman help an old man cross the street. They saw doctors working hard to save sick people. They observed farmers sharing their crops with hungry neighbors. In a small town in Kansas, they met the Brooks family. Tom Brooks was a farmer who grew corn and wheat. His wife Mary taught at the local school. Their 2 children, Billy and Sue, were shy at first, but soon warmed up to the strange visitors. Your family seems very happy, Veltar told Tom as they walked through the cornfields. We work hard, but we help each other, Tom said. That's how we've always done things here. The alien nodded slowly. Yes, we see this everywhere. Humans care for each other. They do not fight or compete. This is very different from other worlds we have visited. Mary Brooks invited the aliens for dinner. She made her best pot roast, with vegetables from their garden. The aliens did not eat the food, but they watched the family share the meal and talk about their day. On our world, families sometimes fight over food, one of the other aliens said, but here, everyone gets enough. Sometimes we don't have much, Mary said, but we always share what we have. After dinner, young Billy showed the aliens his collection of toy soldiers. The aliens looked confused by the small plastic figures. What are these for? Veltar asked. They're for playing war games, Billy said proudly. My dad taught me about famous battles from history. Tom quickly took the toys away. Just old stories. he said with a nervous laugh. We don't really think about such things anymore. The aliens visited more places. They went to the United Nations and watched countries work together to solve problems. They saw peace protests where people held signs asking for no more wars. They visited memorials for soldiers who had died in past conflicts, where people left flowers and cried. These humans honor those who died in their primitive past, Veltar told his companions. But look how they have grown beyond such things. They are perfect for our purposes. Dr. Turner spent hours talking with the alien scientists. They shared stories about their technology and their travels to other worlds. The aliens seemed impressed by human inventions, though they clearly had much more advanced machines. Your rockets are very clever, one alien scientist said, but they are slow and use much fuel. We could teach you better ways to travel between stars. We would love to learn, Dr. Turner said eagerly. As the days passed, more alien ships arrived. They said they were bringing supplies and more diplomats. The ships landed in remote areas away from cities. When reporters asked to visit them, the aliens politely said no. We do not want to disturb your people with too much strangeness at once, Veltar explained. Captain Morrison noticed that the aliens asked many questions about human governments and military forces. When he mentioned this to Lisa Martinez, she seemed worried. They're probably just curious, she said. If we visited their world, we'd ask the same kinds of questions. But Morrison was not so sure. He had been a soldier for 20 years, and something felt wrong. The aliens were too interested in learning about human weaknesses and not enough about human strengths. Still, most people on Earth were excited and happy. The aliens brought gifts of small devices that could translate any language instantly. They showed holographic pictures of their beautiful home world with crystal cities and floating gardens. Children everywhere drew pictures of the friendly aliens. News reporters called it the most important day in human history. World leaders planned celebrations and parades to honor their new friends from space. The aliens smiled and nodded and praised human kindness. But when they thought no one was watching, they spoke quietly among themselves in their musical language. They pointed at human buildings and roads. They counted the number of soldiers they saw. They made notes about everything. As the first week ended, Veltar sent a message to his leaders far away in space. The message was short and simple. The conquest will be easier than we thought. The humans are weak and peaceful. They will not resist when we take their world. The stage was set, though the humans did not know it yet. The aliens had seen exactly what they wanted to see, and they had made their plans. Soon, they would show their true nature, and Earth would learn what it meant to trust the wrong people. 3 months had passed since the aliens arrived. People on Earth had gotten used to seeing the tall blue beings walking through their cities. Children waved at them on the streets. Scientists worked with them in laboratories. Politicians made speeches about a new age of peace and friendship. But in a small room deep underground in Colorado, Amy Chen stared at her computer screen with growing fear. Amy worked for the government, listening to radio signals from around the world. Her job was to find messages that might be dangerous to Earth. The strange signals had started a week ago. They came from the alien ships, but they were not like the friendly messages the aliens sent to human leaders. These signals were encrypted, which meant they were written in a secret code. Amy had worked for 3 days straight to break the code. She drank cup after cup of coffee and barely slept. Her eyes were red and tired, but she could not stop working. Something told her these messages were very important. When she finally broke the code, Amy's blood turned cold. The messages were not about friendship or peace. They were invasion plans. Phase 2 preparation complete. One message said, human military capabilities assessed. Resistance will be minimal. Request permission to begin final positioning. Another message was even worse. Population centers mapped. Resource extraction. Sites identified. Labor force classification in progress. Humans show no awareness of true mission objectives. Amy's hands shook as she printed out the messages. There were dozens of them, all talking about conquering Earth and using humans as slaves. The aliens had been lying from the very beginning. She ran through the underground tunnels to find her boss, Director Kate Williams. Kate was a tough woman who had worked in intelligence for 20 years. She knew how to spot lies and danger, but even she had believed the aliens were friendly. "Kate, you need to see this right now," Amy said. Bursting into Kate's office, Kate looked up from her desk, annoyed at being interrupted. But when she saw Amy's face, she knew something was very wrong. "What is it?" Amy spread the printed messages across Kate's desk. "The aliens are planning to invade us. All of this friendship stuff is fake. They're getting ready to attack." Kate read the messages quickly. Her face grew pale, then turned red with anger. "How long have they been sending these?" "At least a week, maybe longer. I think there are more messages I haven't decoded yet." Kate picked up her secure phone and dialed a number. "Get me President Carter immediately. Tell her it's code red." Within an hour, Amy found herself in the White House Situation Room. President Helen Carter sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by her top advisors. General Paul Adams, the head of the military, looked grim as he read the alien messages. Dr. Turner was there too, looking shocked and betrayed. "How certain are we that these messages are real?" President Carter asked. Amy's voice was steady, despite her fear. These are definitely from the alien ships. And there's more, Madam President. I've been tracking their ship movements, and they're not random. They're positioning themselves over our major cities and military bases." General Adams pulled up a map on the big screen. Red dots showed where alien ships were located around the world. The pattern was clear. They had surrounded Earth's most important targets. "They've been studying us for 3 months," General Adams said, "learning our weaknesses, mapping our defenses. This is a textbook invasion strategy." Dr. Turner shook his head sadly. "I've been sharing our scientific knowledge with them. I thought we were building trust, but they were just using me to learn about our technology." "Don't blame yourself, Alex," President Carter said. "They fooled all of us. The question now is, what do we do about it?" Lisa Martinez, who had been the first to greet the aliens, looked devastated. "We welcomed them with open arms. We showed them everything. How could we have been so stupid?" "We weren't stupid," General Adams said firmly. "We were hopeful. But hope doesn't win wars. Planning does." Colonel Rick Davis had been studying the alien ships for weeks. He was a military engineer who specialized in analyzing enemy weapons. He had noticed things about the aliens that others had missed. "General, I've been watching their ships closely," he said. "They're impressive, but they have weaknesses. Their energy shields flicker every few minutes. Their engines make a specific sound pattern that suggests they use crystals for power, and they seem to assume we'll just give up without a fight." "What makes you say that?" President Carter asked. "Look at their positioning. They're not prepared for a real battle. They're positioned to intimidate and control, not to fight a war. They think we're as peaceful as we pretended to be." Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, more people were discovering the truth. In England, a young radio operator named Sam Rodriguez picked up similar signals. In Japan, intelligence officer Maya Johnson found strange patterns in alien communications. In Australia, scientist Carol Ford noticed that the aliens were taking secret soil and water samples. The evidence was everywhere. Once people knew what to look for, the aliens had been busy preparing for conquest while pretending to be friends. Back in the Situation Room, President Carter made a decision that would change everything. "We're going to activate the contingency protocol," she said quietly. The room fell silent. The contingency protocol was a secret plan that had been developed years before the aliens arrived. It was based on a simple idea: What if first contact went wrong? What if the aliens were hostile? General Adams nodded grimly. I'll start the process immediately. How much time do we have? Amy looked at her latest intercepts. Based on their communications, they're planning to begin the invasion in 72 hours. They call it final harvest. Then we have 3 days to save our world, President Carter said. The next 72 hours would be the most important in human history. But the aliens had made one crucial mistake. They thought humans were weak, because they had seen them acting peaceful. They did not understand that humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They did not know that every human government had been preparing for this possibility since the aliens first arrived. Most importantly, they did not realize that humans were very good at pretending, just as the aliens had pretended to be friends while planning conquest. Humans had been pretending to be helpless while preparing for war in military bases around the world. Soldiers received new orders. Scientists who had been secretly studying alien technology began building new weapons. Pilots trained on simulators that mimicked alien ship movements. Engineers prepared defense systems that had been built in hidden bunkers. The aliens thought they knew everything about humans. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Jake Morrison received his orders at dawn on the 3rd day. He was to lead a special unit that would defend Washington, D.C. when the attack came. As he read his mission briefing, he smiled for the first time in months. The aliens had studied human history, but they had only looked at the peaceful parts. They had seen humans helping each other and working together. They had not bothered to learn about human wars, human strategies, or human determination. They were about to get a very painful education as the sun rose on the day of the planned invasion. Humans around the world made final preparations. They had spent 3 months pretending to be weak and helpless. Now it was time to show the aliens what humans were really capable of when their world was threatened. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the future of Earth. The aliens thought they were hunting sheep. They were about to discover they had awakened sleeping wolves. The attack began at exactly 6 a.m., Earth time, all around the world. Alien ships that had been quietly floating above major cities suddenly came alive with weapons and soldiers. Ambassador Veltar stood on the bridge of his command ship above New York City. He looked down at the human city below and felt pleased with himself. The humans would surrender quickly once they saw the power of Zephyrian technology. It would be over in a few hours. Begin the first wave, he ordered his officers. Target their government buildings and military bases. Use minimal force. We want the humans alive to work for us. 20 smaller ships broke away from the main fleet and dove toward the city. Their weapons charged up with bright blue energy. Veltar expected to see humans running in panic through the streets. Instead, something impossible happened. Missiles shot up from hidden places all over the city. They were not the primitive rockets the aliens had seen in human museums. These were advanced weapons that moved faster than anything in the Zephyrian database. They struck the diving ships with incredible force. 3 alien ships exploded in balls of fire. 2 more spun out of control and crashed into the harbor. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but more missiles followed them. What is happening? Veltar shouted at his sensor officer. Sir, the humans are fighting back. Their weapons are far more advanced than we thought, and they're using our own technology against us. On the ground, Colonel Emma Stone watched the alien ships burn with grim satisfaction. She stood in a hidden command center beneath Manhattan, surrounded by screens showing the battle. Her missiles had been built using alien technology that human scientists had secretly studied for 3 months. Target the command ship, she ordered. Let's show them what humans can do when we're angry. Lieutenant Maria Santos was already in the air in her fighter jet. But this was not an ordinary jet. Human engineers had taken it apart and rebuilt it using alien designs. It could fly faster than any human aircraft ever made, and its weapons could punch through alien shields. "This is Eagle 1, Maria said into her radio. "I'm going after the big one." Her jet shot upward like a rocket. The alien command ship tried to lock onto her with its weapons, but Maria's ship moved too fast and too unpredictably. She had trained for this moment using flight patterns that aliens had never seen before. She fired 2 special missiles at the command ship. They were designed to overload alien shields by sending too much energy through them at once. The shields flickered and failed. Veltar felt his ship shake as the human weapons hit. Alarms blared throughout the bridge. His officers ran around frantically, trying to understand what was happening. "How are they doing this?" Veltar demanded. "Our intelligence said they were a peaceful species." "Sir, we're receiving reports from all over the planet. Human forces are fighting back everywhere. They seem to have been preparing for this attack." In London, Major Ben Clark led a team of soldiers who used alien technology to make themselves nearly invisible. They moved through the city like ghosts, destroying alien landing parties before they could establish control. In Tokyo, pilots flying modified human aircraft shot down alien ships using tactics that confused and surprised the invaders. The aliens had never faced enemies who could adapt and change their strategies so quickly. In Moscow, ground forces used alien energy weapons that human scientists had reverse-engineered. The weapons were more powerful than anything the aliens expected humans to possess. But the biggest shock came from ordinary citizens. The aliens had expected humans to panic and hide when the attack began. Instead, people fought back with whatever they could find. Tony Mitchell was a car mechanic in Detroit. When alien soldiers landed near his garage, he used his welding torch and some stolen alien technology to build a weapon that could melt through their armor. He and his neighbors formed a resistance group that destroyed an entire alien landing force. Nurse Carol Ford had been caring for injured aliens in a hospital in Chicago. She had learned about their biology and discovered that they were allergic to a common earth chemical found in cleaning supplies. When the invasion began, she and the other hospital workers used this knowledge to defend their building. Farmer Tom Brooks, who had welcomed aliens to his dinner table months ago, now used his knowledge of the local terrain to set traps for alien soldiers. His son Billy, who had shown the aliens his toy soldiers, helped his father plan ambushes using strategies from human military history. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered. Humans seemed to be everywhere at once. They used the environment as a weapon. They worked together in ways that confused alien commanders. They adapted to new situations faster than any species the Zephyrians had ever fought. Most terrifying of all, humans seemed to get stronger and more determined the more they were hurt. When alien weapons destroyed human buildings, the survivors did not surrender. They got angry and fought harder. Back on Veltar's command ship, the situation was getting desperate. Half of the Zephyrian fleet had been destroyed or damaged. The other half was scattered across the planet, trying to deal with human resistance that seemed to come from everywhere. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human capital," the communications officer reported. "Put it on screen," Veltar ordered. President Carter appeared on the screen. She was standing in the White House, which was supposed to have been destroyed in the first attack. Behind her, General Adams and other human leaders looked calm and confident. "Ambassador Veltar," President Carter said in a cold voice, "I believe you wanted to talk about surrender." Veltar straightened up, trying to look dignified despite the chaos around him. "You cannot resist us forever, human. Our forces are vast. More ships will come. Let them come," General Adams said, stepping forward. "We've been fighting wars for 5,000 years. You've just given us our first real challenge in decades." "You don't understand," Veltar said desperately. "We are the Zephyrian Collective. We have conquered dozens of worlds. No species has ever defeated us." Dr. Turner appeared on screen next to the president. His earlier sadness had been replaced by cold anger. That's because you've never fought humans before. You studied our art and our music, but you didn't bother to learn about our wars. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake, Captain Morrison added, was thinking that cooperation makes us weak. Actually, it makes us stronger. When humans work together against a common enemy, we become very dangerous. Around the world, the pattern was the same. Alien forces that had expected easy victory found themselves fighting for survival against an enemy that seemed to know their every weakness and counter their every move. In Australia, Aboriginal trackers used traditional hunting skills combined with alien technology to hunt down and capture Zephyrian soldiers in the outback. In Africa, local militias who had been fighting with simple weapons for years quickly learned to use captured alien equipment with deadly effectiveness. In South America, humans used the jungle itself as a weapon, setting traps and ambushes that the aliens could not detect or avoid. By the end of the first day, the Zephyrian invasion was in ruins. More than half their ships were destroyed. The survivors were scattered and confused, unable to coordinate their attacks against human forces that seemed to anticipate their every move. Veltar sat in his damaged command center and tried to understand what had gone wrong. The humans had seemed so peaceful, so helpless. How had they hidden such military capability? He didn't understand that humans had been pretending, just as the aliens had pretended. The difference was that humans were much better at it. They had learned to hide their true nature from thousands of years of fighting each other. As night fell on Earth, human forces prepared for the second day of battle. But they were no longer defending their world. Now they were hunting the invaders. The aliens had awakened something they did not understand. They had seen human kindness and mistaken it for weakness. Now they were learning about human fury, and it was more terrible than anything in their nightmares. The war was far from over, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The hunters had become the hunted, and Earth's children were coming for them. The second week of the war brought something the Zephyrians had never experienced before: fear. Their mighty invasion fleet was scattered across Earth's surface in burning pieces. The survivors hid in caves and forests, hunted by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. Veltar's command ship limped through space above the dark side of Earth. Most of his crew was dead or wounded. The beautiful silver hull was blackened with burn marks. The bridge lights flickered because the power systems were failing. "Sir," his frightened communications officer whispered, "we're receiving a transmission from the human broadcast network." "What do they want now?" Veltar asked tiredly. "They're not talking to us, sir. They're talking to our soldiers on the ground. And sir, ... you need to see this." The main screen came alive with images that made Veltar's blood turn cold. A human woman named Maya Johnson was speaking calmly to the camera, but behind her were pictures that showed the true nature of humanity. "Attention Zephyrian forces," Maya said in perfect Zephyrian language. "You came to Earth thinking we were a peaceful species. You were wrong. Let us show you what humans really are." The screen filled with images of human warfare throughout history. Ancient warriors, with swords and shields, fighting to the death. Medieval knights in armor, charging into battle. Soldiers from Earth's great wars, using weapons that could kill thousands. "This is the Battle of Thermopylae," Maya explained, as the screen showed 300 Spartan warriors fighting against a massive army. 300 humans held off thousands of enemies for days. They all died, but they refused to surrender. The images changed to show more recent conflicts. Soldiers fighting in trenches during World War I, tank battles from World War II, pilots shooting down enemy aircraft while their own planes burned around them. "This is what we call war," Maya continued. "It is what humans do when someone threatens our families and our homes. You thought we were sheep, but sheep do not build weapons like these." The screen showed human missiles that could destroy entire cities. Submarines that could hide underwater for months. aircraft that could fly faster than sound, weapons that could kill from hundreds of miles away. Veltar watched in growing horror as he realized what the Zephyrians had really attacked. These humans were not the gentle farmers and artists they had pretended to be. They were predators who had spent thousands of years learning how to kill efficiently. But the most frightening thing about humans, Maya said with a cold smile, is not our weapons. It is our ability to work together. When humans are threatened, we stop fighting each other and become one united force. This is something you will never understand. The broadcast continued for hours, showing the Zephyrian soldiers exactly what kind of enemy they were facing. It told them about human tactics like guerrilla warfare, where small groups of fighters could defeat much larger armies. It explained how humans used psychology as a weapon, making their enemies afraid before the fighting even began. On the surface of Earth, the remaining Zephyrian forces watched the broadcast in their hiding places and felt their courage drain away. Many of them had never fought a real war before. The Zephyrian collective usually conquered peaceful species who surrendered quickly. They had no experience fighting an enemy that refused to give up. Commander Zeklos hid in a cave in the Rocky Mountains with 12 other survivors from his unit. They had been elite soldiers just 2 weeks ago. Now they were refugees, afraid to venture outside because human hunters were everywhere. "Did you know about this?" one of his soldiers asked, pointing at the images on their emergency communicator. Zeklos shook his head. "Intelligence told us they were primitive. They said humans were not capable of organized resistance." "Intelligence was wrong," another soldier said bitterly. "These humans fight like demons. They know our weaknesses better than we do. How is that possible?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Turner's voice filled their communicator as he took over the broadcast. "You want to know how we learned to fight you so effectively," he said. "We studied you the same way you studied us. But while you only looked at our peaceful side, we analyzed everything about you. Your technology, your tactics, your biology, even your psychology." The screen showed human scientists working in secret laboratories, taking apart alien equipment and learning how it worked. It showed human doctors studying alien biology to find weaknesses. It showed human strategists analyzing every alien communication to understand their battle plans. "We learned that you have never fought a species that fights back," Dr. Turner continued. "Your entire military system is designed for intimidation, not actual combat. You rely on fear to make your enemies surrender. But humans do not surrender when we are afraid. Fear makes us more dangerous." This was true. Throughout human history, the most desperate battles had often ended in human victory. When humans were backed into a corner with no hope of escape, they fought with a fury that terrified their enemies. The broadcast showed examples of this. British pilots during the Battle of Britain, fighting against impossible odds to save their homeland. Russian soldiers at Stalingrad, fighting house by house in the ruins of their city. American Marines on Pacific Islands, fighting to the death rather than surrender. "You see," Dr. Turner explained, "humans have been preparing for you our entire existence. Every war we fought against each other taught us something new about combat. Every weapon we built made us more deadly. Every tactical innovation brought us closer to the moment when we would face an enemy from the stars." Veltar realized the terrible truth. The Zephyrians had not been studying a peaceful species. They had been studying a race of warriors who had temporarily stopped fighting each other. The moment an outside threat appeared, all of human history had focused into a single, devastating response. The broadcast showed more recent events. Human scientists reverse engineering alien technology in just weeks. Human engineers building hybrid weapons that combine the best of both technologies. Human tacticians developing strategies that the aliens could not predict or counter. "Your biggest mistake," General Adams said as he appeared on screen, "was assuming that peaceful people are helpless people. Humans choose to be peaceful when we can. But when our families are threatened, we become something else entirely. The screen showed human civilians who had transformed into fighters overnight, teachers who became resistance leaders, doctors who used their knowledge of alien biology to develop new weapons, farmers who used their understanding of the land to set traps for alien soldiers. Every human civilian is a potential soldier, Adams explained. We train our children to think strategically through games and sports. We teach them about warfare through history lessons in movies. When the time comes, they already know how to fight. This was perhaps the most terrifying revelation for the Zephyrian forces. They had been fighting not just human soldiers, but an entire species that understood combat on an instinctive level. The broadcast ended with a simple message from President Carter. You came here to conquer us. Instead, you have taught us that we are not alone in the universe. Thank you for that lesson. Now we will teach you what happens when you threaten Earth. In the weeks that followed, the remaining Zephyrian forces on Earth found themselves in an impossible situation. They could not fight effectively against an enemy that knew their every weakness. They could not hide from humans who seemed to be everywhere. They could not call for help because their communication systems had been destroyed. Most importantly, they could not understand how they had lost to what their intelligence reports had called a primitive, peaceful species. The answer was simple, but terrible. They had not been fighting a primitive species. They had been fighting the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Predators who had learned to disguise themselves as sheep until it was time to reveal their true nature. And now that the disguise was off, the universe would never be the same again. 6 months after the failed invasion, the galaxy was a very different place. The news of humanity's victory had spread to every corner of known space. Carried by the few Zephyrian ships that had managed to escape Earth's fury, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Liberty, humanity's first interstellar warship. It was built using a combination of human engineering and captured alien technology. The ship was sleek and powerful, designed not just for defense, but for the expansion that everyone knew was coming. Sir, reported Captain Sarah Miller from the communications station, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting a meeting. Morrison smiled grimly. The Galactic Council was a group of alien species that controlled most of the known galaxy. 6 months ago, they had never heard of humans. Now, they were afraid of them. Tell them we'll consider it, Morrison said. But they come to us. We don't go crawling to them like the Zephyrians expected. The transformation of Earth had been remarkable. In just 6 months, humanity had gone from a single-planet species to a growing interstellar power. Human shipyards in orbit around Earth worked day and night, building new vessels for exploration and defense. Dr. Rachel Kim, formerly a quiet university professor, now led the most advanced research team in human history. She and her scientists had not only mastered alien technology, but improved upon it. Human ships were already faster and more efficient than anything the Zephyrians had built. The Mark-7 engines are ready for testing, she reported to Morrison during their daily briefing. Our ships will be able to travel twice as fast as Zephyrian vessels, and our new shield technology can absorb their energy weapons and use the power to make us stronger. Engineer Mark Thompson had become something of a legend among humans. He had been the first to figure out how alien technology really worked, and his innovations had given humanity the edge they needed to win the war. Now he was designing weapons and ships that made alien technology look primitive. We're not just copying their designs anymore, he explained to a group of human commanders. We're making them better. Human engineering combined with alien materials creates possibilities they never imagined. The political landscape of Earth had changed too. Ambassador Lisa Martinez now represented a united human government that spoke with one voice to the galaxy. The old divisions between countries seemed small and foolish. When faced with the vastness of space and the reality of alien civilizations, the other species are starting to take notice, she reported to President Carter. 3 different alien Governments have sent diplomatic messages asking about trade agreements. They're being very careful to sound respectful. President Carter looked older than she had before the war, but her eyes were sharp and determined. Good. Let them wonder what we're capable of. The Zephyrians made the mistake of underestimating us. I don't want anyone else to make the same error. Meanwhile, in a high-security facility in Nevada, the surviving Zephyrians were being held as prisoners of war. Veltar, once a proud ambassador, now spent his days answering questions from human intelligence officers. Commander Steve Bell, who ran the facility, had learned more about alien psychology than any human in history. He understood that the Zephyrians were not evil, just arrogant. They had genuinely believed that conquering other species was their right. They're starting to understand what they really attacked, he reported to General Adams. Some of them are asking to cooperate with us. They're more afraid of going home and explaining their failure than they are of staying here as prisoners. This was true. The Zephyrian Collective had a long tradition of punishing commanders who failed in their missions. Veltar and his officers knew that returning home would likely mean death, or worse. What do they offer in return for protection? General Adams asked. Information, Bell replied. They want to tell us about other alien species, about threats we haven't encountered yet. They say there are things out there that make the Zephyrian Collective look peaceful. The galaxy was indeed full of dangers that humans had not yet imagined. Far from Earth, in the cold depths of space, other alien civilizations were learning about the new power that had emerged. Some were curious, others were worried. A few were already making plans. The Galactic Council met in emergency session on a space station near the center of the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss what they called the human problem. Councillor Vexai of the Thalarian Empire spoke for many when she addressed the assembly. The humans destroyed the Zephyrian invasion fleet in a matter of weeks. Intelligence reports suggest they did this using the aliens' own technology against them. This level of adaptability is unprecedented. More concerning, added Councillor Morden of the Silicon Confederacy, is their apparent unity. Most species fight among themselves when faced with external threats. Humans seem to have united instantly against a common enemy. The most frightening report came from Councillor Trevor of the Peaceful Worlds Alliance. Our scouts have detected human ships leaving their solar system. They're not just defending anymore, they're expanding. This was indeed happening. Human exploration ships, crewed by volunteers like Captain Joe Thompson and Commander Lisa Park, were already visiting nearby star systems. They carried powerful weapons and defensive systems, but their primary mission was peaceful exploration and the establishment of human colonies. However, the galaxy's other inhabitants did not see peaceful exploration. They saw the expansion of a species that had just demonstrated its ability to defeat a major galactic power. To them, every human ship was a potential threat. What do we know about human intentions? Councillor Vexai asked. The answer came from an unexpected source. A surviving Zephyrian officer named Colvin had escaped from Earth and made his way to the Galactic Council. He looked thin and frightened as he addressed the assembly. You want to know about human intentions? He said. They intend to make sure nothing like our invasion ever happens again. They're building ships not just to explore, but to ensure that any species thinking of attacking Earth will face consequences they cannot imagine. Are they planning to conquer the galaxy? Morden asked. Colvin shook his head. No, but that almost makes them more dangerous. Conquerors can be predicted and prepared for, but humans seem to want something else entirely. They want to be left alone to grow and explore, and they want everyone in the galaxy to understand that threatening them is a fatal mistake. Back on Earth, human children were growing up in a world where the impossible had become reality. Young Billy Brooks, who had once shown toy soldiers to friendly aliens, now attended a school where classes included interstellar navigation and alien languages. His sister Sue learned about species from dozens of different worlds. Their father Tom still farmed his land in Kansas, but now he grew crops that would feed human colonies on distant planets. Their mother Mary taught children who might someday become ambassadors to alien civilizations or captains of interstellar ships. The Brooks family represented the new human reality. They were still the same people who had welcomed aliens to their dinner table, but they now understood that kindness without strength was an invitation to be conquered. "Do you think we'll have more visitors?" Sue asked her father one evening, as they watched human ships launch toward the stars. Tom looked up at the night sky, where Earth's new orbital defenses gleamed like metal stars. "Probably," he said, "but if they come with bad intentions, they'll learn what the Zephyrians learned." "What's that?" Billy asked. "That humans are the friendliest people in the galaxy," Tom said with a smile that was both warm and dangerous. "Right up until you threaten our families." The galaxy was learning this lesson slowly and carefully. Some species, like the peaceful Worlds Alliance, were already sending diplomatic messages offering friendship and trade. Others, like the militant Krytar Empire, were quietly canceling plans to expand into human space. A few, however, were making different calculations. In the dark reaches of space, ancient species that had slumbered for millennia were awakening. They had heard about the defeat of the Zephyrians, and they were curious about this new species that had emerged so suddenly. These ancient powers had their own plans for the galaxy, plans that had been developing for thousands of years. The emergence of humanity represented either a new opportunity or a new threat, depending on their perspective. But that was a problem for the future. For now, Earth's children were spreading across the stars, carrying with them the lesson that the galaxy had learned at such a terrible cost, that the most dangerous predators are often the ones that look the most peaceful. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The sheep had revealed themselves to be wolves, and now every species in known space would have to decide whether they wanted to be friends or food. The humans, for their part, preferred friends, but they were prepared for either possibility.